In our last video, we discussed components. We talked about variants, how you can create different properties from a component. We talked about interactive components. So if you haven't seen the video, you might want to go and check out the video in my YouTube channel. Now, today we are going to be discussing component properties. We're just going to be taking it a bit further to help us to simplify our process. So component properties basically helps you to minimize the amount of elements you will have in your files. Let's say you want to create a card, right? You want to create a card that has an image, that has a title, a description, and a button. If you are going through the process of creating a component or maybe creating different variants, it will require that you create the card that has all the elements that you want in the card. Then maybe you want some variants that will have only, you want a variant that will have only the title. You want another variant that will have the title and the description. You also want another variant that will have the title and the button. Then you want another variant that will have the description and the button only. Going through this path, it will require that you create how many variants? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? That's a lot of elements. That's a lot of components or a lot of items to have in your file. To minimize this process and to speed up your work, it will require that you will need to create component properties. What are component properties? Component properties basically helps you to create all these things, all these variants of this card with just one card. Like I can just take this has component properties. From this card, I can just get all these variants that I want. Instead of creating them, I can just create all those properties from this one card. So if I want a card that has the image and title only, I will just come here from the component properties panel here. I will just turn off the description, right? The description, I will turn off the description and I will turn off the button. Then I have the image. I have the card that has only the image and the title. If I want the card that has title and description only, I'll turn on the description. If I want the card that has description and button only, I'll turn on the button and then turn off the title, right? So using component properties can actually help to speed up your work and simplify the process for you. I can also have different variations of these, that variants of these cards. I can choose to have a variant of this card, which is the one that has hover. When I hover on it, it will give me this property. I can choose to have a variant of this, which is this one as well. You get? So I can choose to have like a variant that has all the properties here, right? All the properties that has all the properties of this card that has the title, the description, and the button and all, right? So how do we achieve this? Component properties have three properties that you can use to manipulate your elements. You have the instance swap property. The instance swap property basically helps you to swap elements. So for elements that you want to swap on, let's say like we have this card and we have some elements that we want to swap in this card, e.g. the image. Like I designed this card to help us to be able to swap the image. So let's say we want to swap this image. The component property that will help you to achieve that is the instance swap property. So I come to my panel, you can see where it says instance swap. So I can choose to select another image and it will just definitely swap it for me, instead of having to maybe like select the image and start changing the image and everything. Component properties just helps me to just select the card and then swap the image that I want, right? Let's say then you have the Boolean property. Boolean property helps you to control the elements that you want to make visible or that you want to hide in your design, right? The design that you're creating helps you to decide if you want to show an element or not show an element. So it's basically yes or no property, right? So if you're not showing it, you're hiding it. So how do we achieve that? So let's say I don't want to show the title of this card, what I would do, I don't want to show the title of this card. The component property that will help me to achieve that is the Boolean property, which enables me to turn off and turn on property of an element, or to make an element visible or not visible. So if I want to hide title, I'll just turn off the title, and the title will be hidden from the card, right? Then we have another component property, which is the text, right? The text property, property helps you to edit text on your design. So you don't need to start selecting the text here, because one of the things that you have to master as a designer when you are coming up, especially when you are starting out, right? One of the things that you have to know is that you get to a level where you need to work with a robust team. You might not really be the only designer working in a team. So to be able to make it to have a consistent brand items in your designs, because you're not the only one working on the files, you will need to create a system that helps you to manage consistent designs across your team, right? So to avoid inconsistency, creating a component property will help you that anyone that comes on the file, they won't need to select the text directly from the image. For them to do that, they will need to just select the element that they want, then come here to the property panel and then edit it. Let's say we want to add another text here. Let's say this is, okay, this video is for component properties, right? So once I'm done typing and click enter, you see the text that I typed here, properties, sorry, I think I spelled that wrong way. The text that I typed here has replaced this one, and you can see we have auto layout on the card as well. So if you've not watched my auto layout video, I explained everything in details, especially if you are new to my channel, or if you are new to design and you're trying to understand auto layout. I did detailed videos on that. I think I did up to 3 versions of the videos, right? So to help you, by the time you're done watching the 3, you will really understand how to use auto layout in your design. So coming back to what we are discussing. So the image, because it has auto layouts, right? Because we add auto layout, it will just automatically adjust to the size, to the properties that you have configured for the auto layout, right? So now we have consistent design across our team. Just because someone added a new text doesn't mean that the properties of the card has changed. We still have the same spacing across the card. We still have the same button element size, we still have the same image size and everything, right? So that's what text property, component property does for you. For variants basically helps you to create different variations of your cards or your elements or your designs, right? So let's say we have given this card the different properties that we want. We have given it the instance swap properties, we've given it the properties, we've given it the Boolean property, we've given it the text manipulation property. We want to have different variations of that, right? From this card now, we have a variant that enables us that when a user hovers on it, right? So let me take this card. Let me take this card and then put it here. So when a user hovers on it, let's say we have this here, so shift space to view, so just preview it in the file. So when a user hovers, you can see when I hover, right, this is a variant that controls the hover effect. When I hover, it changes to the other property, right? What are in a situation where we want to create another variant, right, that has or let's say want to create a variant, because it's already a variant, right? Let's just modify from there. Want a variant that has like bottom outline button stroke, like the bottom stroke is large, right? We want to make this outline variant that has a bottom stroke only, right? We increase the stroke and make it to stay outside. We want a situation when a user hovers on this stroke. Let's modify the color a little bit. It's kind of looking, let's modify the color exactly to look, or maybe let's make it yellow. I think yellow is kind of dominant here. Yeah, I think that works better. So once a variant of this card, particular card that has all the properties of this card, but we want a variant that will, when a user hovers on it, it will show this. So if we take our card, if we should take our, we should preview this card again, and then we should preview this card. We'll see that that property has been modified. So how can we get this? We are able to like achieve all these things with just these two cards, right? We're able to achieve different variants of this particular card, which is this one with just one card, and we're able to achieve create another variant from this card. How do we do that, right? So let's get started. Let's create our card before we start creating the properties of this component. So we need to create a card and make it a component. I've like gathered some of the items that we'll be needing, the images. We want to use the image for our image swap, right? And also we'll be seeing how we can create all those things again with like buttons as well, right? So you know that it's not only on card that you can apply this property, you can apply it in any design elements that you're working with, right? But let's just use the simplest example that we can get. So I'm going to get these images here, right? I'm going to take these images, and then we're going to be creating something like this. Let's take the properties of this card. We want to take the size of the image of the card. So we have 478 by 315. So all the images, we are going to keep them the same sizes, right? 478 by 315, right? Yeah, and the corner radius should be 16, right? So this one is done. Then this card, this image again. So we have 498 by 315, right? And the corner radius is 16. Then this one again, we just unlink it so we can resize it, 315. And the corner radius is 16. Then we have another image, 315. I just want us, the reason I have for is just for us to see like how we can swap this image when we start designing. So we have our images. It's time for us to name our image. So always remember to name your items properly. Image 1, I'm going to call it image 1 and copy it. Then this one will be the image 2, and this one will be image 3, and this will be image 4. So we are done creating our image. The next step is for us to, because we want to create a default component first, the next one is for us to be able to give it the property or the ability for us to swap, because we're going to be using instant swap on our images so that we can swap from one image to another one. We're just going to select each of these images, and then make it a component. We are going to make the images a component, right? So I will select this image. You see the component icon at the top. If you've not watched the first video on this course, you might need to go back and watch the component video and variants and interactive components, right? So I select it and then make it a component. Now it's a component. I discussed the properties of components in details in my previous video. So if you are just new to design, you might need to check it out. So I turn this into a component as well. I turn this into a component, and I turn this into a component. Now all the images are components that we've componentized the images. What is the next step? We need to get our title and title and our layer. What are we going to have? Our description. So what are we going to use as our title? We can say Fashion Week, right? We can say Fashion Week. Week is here. right? So this could be our title. Let's just increase the size a little bit and make it bold, right? We have our title here, and then we need to turn it into auto layout, right? So we call this title, right? Add auto layout to this, and I'm going to remove all the paddings around this text. Then the next one is we're going to have our text description, right? So instead of us looking for where to get it, I will just maybe like copy out this one here, right? I'm just going to lift or copy this one from here. For us to make, let's just increase the text a little bit. So I'm going to copy the text and paste more in it. Yeah, I think we have something better. And we're going to increase the text height, right? We're going to increase the text height of this, maybe like 30 px to give it more breathing room. And we're going to add auto layout to this again to make it a frame, right? Auto layout, not just adding auto layout, we also want to make it responsive for when we want to, let's say we want to resize this card, right? You can see that the card is actually responsive. So we make the image to fill container, right? The card is responsive and all the elements are responsive. The reason it's not decreasing a little bit further is because it has more width, right? In my next video, we are going to be discussing auto layout, the updated auto layout properties, right? But today, let's just focus on component properties. So now that I've added auto layout to this text, I'm going to remove all the paddings as well. I don't want any spacing on the card, on the text, right? I'm going to call it text description. Remember to always name your elements. Remember to always name your element. Text description. Then the next element that we need is a button, right? We need a button. So the button can be get started, right? The button can be get started. So we have our button. We want to turn this text into a button. What do? Add auto layout to this. This time around, we're going to be having our padding around it. So padding left and right 32, padding top and bottom 16. I think that is good. So I'm going to select a color for this. I'm going to see what color does these guys have in common. I think they have pink in common. This one has a faded pink background. This lady has a pink heart. That doesn't mean that that's how you should select your colors when you are designing. I'm just using this randomly so that we can have a harmonized design, right? I'm just going to select this color, right? Because when I do, it's going to fit in. You can see this harmonizes with this harmonizes with this harmonizes with this, and this as well, right? So that's one of the ways you come up with color if you don't know the color to use for your design. And also you also need to think of industry standards, what colors are used in the industry. So I think in my subsequent videos I also need to talk about color. So call this button. And now that we've done that, I think white will come out much better. If you want to know if your buttons have good accessibility, there's a platform you can use, Whocanuse, right? Whocanuse.com to check if this button and the text has good contrast. So let's test if the contrast is good, right? So you can see the contrast is not good. We might need to modify the button color so that we can create a very good contrast for the color between the color and the text. So I'm going to select this as well and check again to see if the color is much better. So you can see, I think we have increased it to 0.1 for the accessibility checker, right? This course is not for accessibility, but we just want to make sure that everything that we're designing here is accessible, right? Yeah, so we need to try this, and this is it. Let's see if this passes. Okay, it's still not coming out well. So let's try this. Let's try this color. So you can see the sunlight. If someone was outside the sun, this is how they are going to be seeing this. So it has passed for this, and the color contrast ratio has increased from 6 point something to 4.5. Earlier it was around 3 point something, didn't pass, right? So the minimum you can have is like 4.1, but make sure when you try out your colors, make sure it passes this, right? We are going to discuss color when we come to that. If I should test this again, you can see that this color harmonizes, right, with the design, and this one as well, it harmonizes with this and as well as this one. So we are good to go with this, right? So we have our button, we have our description, and we have our text. Let's design our card. So I'm going to select, remember we already have an image here, so I'm going to go to our image asset and go to the component properties, right? Component properties, and select our image, right? Image 2. I'm going to select it here. This is a variant of this particular parent image. So I'm going to select this image, and then we're going to select all of them, right? So remember, when you're designing, you need to think of proximity, right? One of the rules of proximity is that users tend to feel that elements that are grouped together, that actually they belong together. So following that, we want to think that this title and the description, they actually belong together. So we're going to add auto layout to them, right? We're going to add auto layout to them and call it card copy, right? Card copy, right? So we're going to call it card copy, and then we're going to select the card copy, and then we're going to select the image and add auto layout. Shift A for if you are new, then, or you right click and you see add auto layout. It's either you right click and add auto layout, or you click on Shift A and you still get the same result. So now that we've created a card, there are a lot of things that needs to be modified here. A lot of things need to be modified. First, we need to, you can see that the image is edgy. So let's add a background color. You can see that all the elements are like at the edge of the card. You want to create it, want a situation where we have like space around here, right? We have space at the top already, but the space seems to be much. So we're going to click on this. Is either you click here or you come here, right? This is the space between these items. So is either you come here and change it. So we're going to make it like 24. Let the spaces between them be just 24, and the card, the space between the card will maybe like be 12, right? So want like the card to have a very good breathing room. Remember, negative space matters a lot when you are designing. That's one of the ways you create good designs, right? So I'm going to click content. If you notice that the card is coming out like it's giving this edgy look. The reason is because the contents are just coming out of the card, like the color and everything. So want to click content, right? Want to click content and then make this image to want to click content and then add radius to the image as well, to the card as well. So because the image is 16 px, might want to do that as well. Maybe do more of that, maybe do 24 px, right? For the card, you can see now everything is hidden. So I'm going to rename this to card, right? Now that we have this, we have our card. The next step is for us to create a good spacing around the card. First, we want to do bottom. We want to give this card a bottom padding, right? We want to create a space at the bottom. So padding is the space inside your element, while margin is the space outside of the element. So we're going to be creating space inside this card. We are just going to be using the padding. So we are going to unlink this and create padding bottom, right? You can see it has given it a space of 24 at the bottom. If we say we want to give it padding right 24, you can see that the image has shifted, but we want a situation where this image we occupy will not have a space around it at all, but we want a space around this particular guy. So what do? We're going to remove this. What we do is to select this copy and select this button and then add auto layer, put them in another container, right? Put them in a different container. So I'm going to add a different container like select the card, select this button, and then right click and add auto layout, right? Auto layout to this particular card and the button. Now that we've added auto layout, we're going to add left and right padding to it. We're going to add left and right padding. So left and right will require us to do that. Left and right padding, and you can see we have our left and right padding here on this particular card. Now we need to rename this card. You can call it card text layer, right? You can call it card text layer. Just rename it the way you would want. And also, now that we've finished designing this, we need to make this image to fill, or let's say hot content. Let's say fill container, because we want to make it responsive. So the image should fill container. But now that we are done designing, we want this card to also be responsive. If we should check this card, you can see only the image is responsive. The reason is because I've added fill container to the image, but every other thing is not responsive. We want the card, the title, the buttons to be responsive, right? So how do we do that? First, I want this card to fill the width of this particular card. So we are going to make it to fill container. I want it to be a full width button, and want it to maybe be rounded, right? Be a rounded button. Want something like this. Then want this card, this particular card that has the text and the button, which is the card text layer, to have fill container. Want this particular card that has the card copy. Remember, that has only the title and the description to fill container as well. Then we select this card title and the text description to fill container. And then because this is, I think it's, we need to make it align left. So we need to make it align left as well as this one left. So if we check again, let's see if it's responsive. If we check again, you can see that all the elements, okay, there's something else missing. This text is not responsive. Okay, this is fill container. Something is not okay. Yeah, the text itself, the description itself is fixed, so that's why it's not responsive. So we're going to take it and make it fill container. If we should check again to see if the card is responsive, you'll see that the card is responsive, right? When we discuss our updated auto layout property, you'll see we'll discuss how we can actually make this card to have a minimum width. You can see it can go to as any level. So the situation where we don't want it to be decrease below this, we'll set that. We don't want it to increase above a particular width. We'll set it. That will be in our next videos, right? So I'm going to take this. Now that we've created our card, it's time for us to start giving it these properties that will enable us to have different variations of cards that we have, either have maybe like the title only, title and description only, title and button only, or description or button only, right? What are the properties that we want to have? Want a card that will have, let's say image only, right? Want to get a variant, like what are the variants that we want to have from this card? Create from this card variants, right? Want to create from this card, want to create a variant that will have, let me make this bolder, right? Want to create variants that we have like image only, right? Image and title only, right? Title only. Want a variant that we have, right? So these are the variants that we can create. You can create like a lot of variants from this card, this one card, but let's just start with this. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just start with this 7. Now, how do we go about that? How do we go about creating all these variants from this card? First, we are going to make this card a component, right? Now we're going to make this card a component with componentizing. Now that we've created this component, we need to start creating these variants, right? So the first variant, the first component property that will enable us to achieve this is the Boolean property, right? The Boolean property will help us to achieve that, the Boolean property. Or let's start with instance swap. We want a situation where we will be able to swap this image. How do we get that? Let's use instance swap, right? To swap the image. First, we use instance swap. So let's create an instance swap property from this. So we select our card and come to this properties panel. You can see add property, and then when you take a look at this this property panel, you see variant, Boolean, instance swap, and text. We want an instance swap property because we want to use it on an image to be able to swap an image from one image to another, right? So we select the instance swap and then call it, what is the name of the instance swap? You call it, you say has image, right? Has, or we call it image, you can call it image swap, right? Image swap. So we pick our, where do we want to swap the image? Where do we want to get the image swap from? We want to get it from this particular one. You can see I have different pages on my design, right, on my file. So I'm going to, this is the page that we are on, the component properties page. So I'm going to select it and then select the card, select the images that I want to be swapping. So I have image 1, image 2, and 3. They want this image 2, right? Yeah, this is the image 2 that we want, right? And then we create properties, right? And one of the things that can also help us, I'm just going to delete this guy because they are interfering with the design. So one of the things that can help us, let's go back to our instance swap and then select image. One of the things that can help us, you can see we've been able to like minimize it. One of the things that can also help us, let's say we are working with a robust team, right? Robust team is for us to maybe like select the particular images that they will not go beyond these images, right? So for us to achieve that, let's say I want my team, whenever they want to swap an image, I want them to only select from these 4 images. Remember when we had like other images here, right? I had to delete them. I want them to only select from these images whenever they are designed. So what I would do is to come here and then set the images, right? Select all the image preferred values, right? The images I want them to use is this image 1, right? Image 4, image 3, image 2, and image 1. These are the images which are the ones that I have listed, like we've created here initially. So these are just images that I want them to also use in their design. So now that I've created it, I can just close and then close it. Anytime I take this card or anytime someone comes to this design file and wants to swap this image, the only image option that they're going to have, right? Let's go to the image property. The only image that they are going to have, right? The only image that they're going to have, oh, before we do that, let's attach, because we've created this component property, let's attach the property to the image, because if we should select this image, the property is not there yet. We only created the property on the card, but we need to attach it to the elements that you need to manipulate it with, right? So the element that we are going to be using that instance swap property on is the image. So we select the image, and you can see once you select it, you're going to add the instance swap property, which is image swap. So once we add it, you'll notice that it will now give you that property of image swap, right? So we have this image swap. Then the next one is, now back to what I was saying, in a situation where you have like other team members that you're working with, because you've selected specific images that you want them to have, the specific images that you've selected are the ones that they will have access to. So let's say I want this, I can just change it from that to this, like only the 4 images that you selected, that's one that they're going to have access to, right? So now that we've created an instance swap for our image, the next one is text. How do we modify our text? How do we increase or change our text? That's where the text property, I think I'm going to change this and bring this to the top. The text property, right? The text property comes in, right? So how do we modify our text so that anyone that comes to to our file, we will not have to tamper with this text and doing every other thing. First, we need to create the text property. So we add another property, which is text, right? First, remember we have two texts here. We have the title text and we have the description text. So we call this title, right? And we have what's the value that we have there? Fashion week. What is going to be displaying there by default is what you have there. If you should type another thing there, it will replace by the time. If you should type another thing there, by the time you give this what's it called, title here, this property of the text is going to override it, right? So we are going to give it the same name as this and create the property, right? So we've created the property. And another one, we need to create the text for. We need to create for this description text. So I'm going to select this and then come to my properties and then select text again and call it description. But before we do that, I want to copy this text so that by default is the text I said I will have there, right? So I select this property and then add the text property. First, I'm going to call it description text, right? Description. I'm going to call it description and then change it to this. This is the description. So anybody that comes to here will always be able to set the description. If you notice, it's showing us a warning sign or something. It's saying us not used within components, not used within components. So now that we've created the components on the card, we need to assign them. We need to assign the component to this text. So I'm going to select the text. Make sure you're not selecting the container, which is the title. You're selecting the text itself, right? You go to text property, the text panel. If you go to this text panel, you see this text at the bottom here, you see here, and you assign that property in the component property to, which is the title, right? You assign it to it. Now it has the property. Then you select this description. Make sure you're not selecting the container. Remember, this description is in a container. Make sure you're not selecting the container. You're selecting the text itself. Once you select the text, it's going to show up. So go to the text property panel and then you'll see this icon here. Select description because that's the property, component property you created for it. Now let's test what we have created. Let's say we have this image, we have our instant swap, right? Which is for image, instant swap. We have our title, we have our description. We want to swap this image, we can swap it. We want to modify the text, we can modify the title, right? We have it here. Once you click on it, you can see it there. You can modify the description, modify the description as well, right? Modify the description, right? Modify the description as well. If you click enter and see it has modified, and because it has auto layout, it will definitely adjust to the size of its content and it will be responsive, just basically, right? It's going to be responsive. Now that we've done that, we have our button, right? We have our button. We've been able to create a component property that will help us to manage our images or the elements that we want to swap, right? In this case, we want to swap our image, which is image swap, the text, modifying our text. We use it on text title and the text description. Now, we want to be able to show and hide some elements, right? That is where the Boolean comes in, and it's the Boolean property that we'll able to use. We'll be able to create this variants. It's the Boolean property that will be used to create these variants, right? Image only, no image, okay. Want to use this one, image. So in a situation where it's off, that means it's no image. So this one, image only, this image description and button, right? Description button, right? Or we can actually modify this to be image, right? We have image is going to be showing image or not showing image. It's going to be showing title, right? It's going to be showing the title or not showing the title. It's going to be showing the description, right? Description or not showing the description, right? That is how we are going to use all this to achieve all of this. So it's going to be showing the description or not showing the description. It's going to be showing the button, right? Has button, right? Or we use it has button. This one we'll use it has description. This one will modify it to has title, and this one will modify it to has image. Because if you take a look at this design, these are all the things that we have. Currently, this design has image, it has a title, it has a description, it has a button. So these are the 4 properties that we'll use to manipulate the Boolean and create all of these variants, right? So let's get started. But if we want to do that, we want to use this in small letters, right? Just to make it much more readable, right? Has title, right? And then this one has description. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this as well, right? So has image, has title. So let's start creating the Boolean property. So go to our card. I'm going to copy this. Go to our card and select another property. Remember, Boolean property this time around, and it will be has image. By default, the image should show, which is true, right? If you don't want it to show by default, you can select purple. I want it to show, you create this one. So the next one is has title, right? Remember, we are just creating the properties. We've not assigned it to any of these elements. So we'll have another one, and it will be Boolean, and it will be has title. By default, it should have a title, and this one has description. By default, it should have, so we'll go to our Boolean. By default, it should have a description. Then has button. So by default, it should have Boolean, it should have a button, right? Now that we've created it, we're going to take our image, right? We're going to take our image and then go to our instance swap, right? Instance swap property. You can see has image, has description, has not instance, Boolean properties, has button, has description, has image, has title. So this time around, has image, by default, it will show, right? So has what's it called? Title, we go to our instance swap, Boolean, I'm always saying instance swap, Boolean property, right? And say has title, right? So this should be for the has title. Then this one should be for the has description, because by default, the card is showing a description, right? Then button, has button. By default, it should show the button, so has button. Now that we've been able to do this, we've been able to assign all these properties, all these Boolean properties to the elements of this card. So now let's start manipulating. Once a card, right? So let's start getting, like, if you want to get all these variants now, we want a card that has image only, right? So it has image only, so we're going to turn off title, we're going to turn off description, we're going to turn off button, right? Now that we've turned that off, you will notice that we have this card here that is showing this. The reason is because we have not assigned any property to it, right? So we can create another property, maybe like no box, right? No box, right? No box or no container, no text container, so that we can be able to hide it, right? We can be able to hide it because this container is basically housing, this particular one is basically housing this card. You can see this title and the button. So we can select it and create another, we can select the card and create another Boolean property, right? That says no text container, no text, has text container. Let's say has text container, right? Has text container by true. Yeah, so we're going to select this text container and assign it to it, has text container, and assign it to it. So if we come back to our card now and we can turn off this, you can see that we have only image is having spaces because of the bottom padding that we have for it. We have there, right? What have been a situation where we remove the bottom padding, right? We remove the bottom padding, it has no padding at all. And instead of us giving the parent card the bottom padding, we can give the bottom padding to this to this card, the parent card, right, which is the card text layer. So we'll come here and give it 24, and then we have the card here, and then we can remove the padding here that we have here, and we have our card. So you can see now that we've adjusted, you can see that the image is now only image, right? Image only. What of in a situation where we want image and title only, and say has image and no title, has title, no description, it has text container as well, right? It has text container as well, so that we can have the space that we have here. So we have image and title only. We've gotten this variant, particular variant. So the next one will be has image and description only. So we're going to hide the title and turn on the description. You can see image and description only. Then the next one will be image and button only, and say has button, right? Has button, has container, has no description, has no title, right? And then this description layer, this title layer, we also need to hide it. So how do we manage that? We might need to actually like unlink this, ungroup these guys, so that we can have a comprehensive design here, right? So now we have this, right? Now we have this and we have this. So another instance, another variant that we might need to have is what I want is description and button only. Okay, has description and button only. So has image, no. Has title, no. So we only have description and button only. Which other variants do we have? Has image and description and button. So this one will turn on the image. So it has image, it has description and button. You notice that we just created one card, but because of using component properties, we're able to like achieve these 7 variants, right? We're able to achieve these 7 variants from just one card, from just this component card. Instead of using this approach, we use our component properties to achieve this using this. Now it's more efficient. It helps you to have lesser elements in your designs, right? It helps you to have lesser elements in your designs while maximizing speed as well, right? So this is how to create a component property from just one element, right? You can actually apply to any element in your design, especially elements that you want to create different variations or different variants from, right? Let's say you want to create a button that has a button icon left, or button left icon, or a button that has right icon, or button that has only text, and button that has only icon only, and then you create different variations of them. How do you go about doing that? So initially, when you want to create this, it will require that you create these 4 buttons and then create different variations of it. If you want a hover, or maybe error state or inactive state, and all those ones, maybe like outline buttons and all. But just using this component property, you can actually create one button that has all these 4 properties in them, right? So how do you do that? You do that using your component properties as well, the instance swap, the Boolean property, the text property, and then maybe variants. We're going to discuss variants shortly. So the thing there is that the idea behind these component properties, one of the things that you just have to know, just know the elements that requires you to swap, right? The elements that you want to always be changing, use swap properties. Then the elements that you want to either make visible or not visible, you want to show or not show them, you use Boolean properties. The elements that you want to edit, right? Like editing, mostly text, you want to use the text property. So that's just the idea behind it. Once you understand it in this simplified manner, it will help you to create any form of element using component properties, right? So let's try out using these component properties to create a button, right? Button that has, right? Let's list out the variants that we have. A button that has icon, has icon left, right? Has icon left. A button that has icon right, right? Has icon right. Button that has what's it called? A button that has text only, right? Button that has text only, and a button that has icon only, right? So with this four, we can create these 4 variants just using the Boolean properties, but we need to start from start from somewhere. We need to create an instance, right? Instance. What if in a situation where we want to change the button icons? How do we do that? Instance swap will help us do that. Instance swap. What if in a situation where we need to instance swap will help us change that. When we need to hide or show the icons, we use the Boolean properties. In a situation where we want to edit the text, we use the text properties, right? So let's start. We want to take this button now, and first we are going to componentize these icons. So we're going to componentize these icons here. First, we componentize these icons. This is the home icon. This is the plus icon. This is search icon. We have this icon, and then I think image search icon or something like that. Image search, right? So these are, let's say these are the icons we'll be using for our design. So I'm just going to take this home. Going to take this home and then paste it inside, right? Going to take this home and paste it inside and change the color. We don't have our color styles or maybe our color library yet that will help us to manage our color. So we're just going to be, we don't have it, so we're just going to be selecting colors here from here. So let's say we have this now. I think this button is too wide. Let's just make it smaller. So let's say we have this, right? First, we're going to componentize this button. First, you need to create a component from this button. So we take the button and turn it into a component. Now that we have it, we need to start creating all these component properties. We need to start creating them. So we take this and then come to properties, right? What property do we want to create? Want to create an instance. We want to create a swap property, right? An instance swap property that will enable us to swap these icon here, right? So I think because we'll be having icon left and right, we need another icon here. So we want to create an instance property that will have that will enable us to do that. So we create this and go to instance swap, right? Swap icon, right? Or this one would be maybe like icon left, right? Let's use it for icon left, right? So pick a value. Go to the file that we are on is component property. So we add this one. So it will be for icon left, right? Instance swap, swap icon left. Instant icon left swap. Let's call it icon left swap. It sounds much better. Icon left swap. Then we create another instance property for swap, right? For the icon right swap. So we call it icon right swap, right? Icon right swap. And we select the icon that we want to use for that. We're going to go to our component property and maybe like use add, right? Then we do that. Now that we've created the component, we've not assigned. If you go here now, you will see that not used within component, not used within component. That's because we've not assigned it to any element here. We just created the property, the component property on this parent element. So we're going to select this icon here and go to, you can see our icon where we have this. Because this is on the left, we're going to select icon left swap, right? Icon left swap. And anytime we come here and want to swap our icon on the left, we'll just go here, we'll start swapping our icons, right? You can swap from here to another one. Sorry, you can swap from here to another one, right? Icon swap. So let's select that. Then we select this again and come here, and then we can swap, our icons to on the right. But there's something I want you guys to note. Initially when we created the image swap, we had to select the specific images that we wanted to swap. We want to do that as well for these guys, right? Want to do that as well for this our instant swap, right? We want to select the specific icons that we want to use to swap, not that they can just come and randomly select any icon. So let's select the icons that we want to swap. We want to swap this one, we want to swap this one. Now we've selected. If we select this image, and if you select this button again and come here, it's only going to show us, it's only going to, for the icon left swap, it's only going to show us all the icons that we've selected, which is so cool, right? So we'll do the same thing for the icon right swap, right? You can give it any name that you want. The name sounds so long, but you can give it any name that you want actually. So we'll come here and select the icon right swap, and then select all the icons that we want to use for that, or want to be used on this layer, right? We want users or maybe other team members to use. So if I come here now and say, remember we only have instant swap properties here. If I come here and say icon left swap, I will only see all these icons here. I can say select icon plug. Then icon right swap, I can say, okay, I want to use the search icon. I can say, right. The reason it's changing, it's not retaining the white here, is that we don't have any color library. If we had any color library, by the time we assign a color to the icon, right, it will retain that color even when we swap, right? But we are not going to be discussing that today. So we've been able to create our instant swap property, right? And then assigned it to the elements that we need to swap. We need to swap the elements on. Now, the next one is Boolean. I want to choose the elements that want to show and not show, right? What elements do we want to show and not show, right? But before we do that, we want to add this turn this into an auto layer, add auto layer to this, so that we can create a container from there. So we call it button text. Call this button text. I just added auto layer to it by adding Shift A, right? Just right click and add auto layout if you want. So now that I've done that, we're going to create a Boolean property. So let's select our card and then come here. What Boolean property do we want to create? Boolean property. First, Boolean property that will control the text. First, we have has icon right, text only, icon only. So, and we have like icon left. So the first one is has icon right. By default, it should be yes, it should have icon right. Then the next one, that we've created this one. The next Boolean property that we're going to create is has icon left, right? Has icon left, right? That's the next Boolean property that we're going to create. The next one we are going to create is has text, right? Oh, sorry. The next Boolean property that we're going to create is has text Boolean. So has text, right? Has text. By default, it should be yes, right? So this one should be has text, right? Text. This one should, because by the time we turn off we don't need this icon only. By the time we turn off the right or the left icon, one icon is definitely going to be retained, right? So the icon only will achieve it even without creating a Boolean property with it. Let's see how we can do that. Now that we've done that, we have created our Boolean property that will enable us to, number one, modify our left and right icons, like swap our left and right icons. Number two, hide our icons and review our icons, right? First we need to assign those properties to these elements, right? So as icon left, we need to come here to our property. We need to come here to our layer, right? Has icon left, we need to come here to our layer and then assign it has icon left, assign it to it. Then our right icon, we need to come here to our layer and has icon left, assign it right, assign it to it. Then the get started, that's has text, right? Has text, we need to assign it to it. So if you select this button now and say, okay, want to have only icon left, we can have it. If you want to say we want to have only text, right? Only text, we can turn off the icon left, then we have it. If we want to say we want to only have icon, right? You can see we only have the icon there, right? But our button is not responsive. You can see our button is fixed, so we want to make it hug content. You can see that since the reason it was not responsive, that it was stretched, was because it was fixed, but now it's responsive. If we add anything, it will now adjust to the size of its content. You can see it will now adjust to the size of its content. So our button is responsive as well, right? And see has text and all those things. Now, what are the property that will enable us to edit this text? Because we don't want a situation where somebody will just come here and select the text and start editing. It's not healthy. We don't want one on our button. What we'll do is to create the text property that will help us to manage that. So we select our components and come here, go to text, right, and say the name of text. It should be has text, right? So it should be has text, right? And then the property should be get started, right? Get started. Make sure that the value that you're giving to it, the value here that you're giving to it should be the text that you have there. If not, it's going to override it. Let's say we have this now. We have get started on the button and we say login, right? If we should give, so we get login. Now that we've created, let's give the text a proper. Make sure, remember, not the text container, the text itself. If we should go to our text layer, you can see, and then assign that has text, it's going to override that initial text that it has there, right? So make sure that if you want to retain the text that the button had initially, that you will give it the particular name, or you can always select it. You should give it that particular name. So I come here, I can modify my text to get started, and I'll have it here, right? I can choose to have only icons, or I can choose to have only one icon and I will have it there. I can choose to have icon right, and text. I can choose to have icon right and text. I can choose to have only icon. I can choose to have only icon left and text, right? That is what component property can help you achieve. Remember, initially we've been able to achieve all of this, right? Let me bring it here. Sorry, let me bring this button here. We've been able to achieve all these 4 buttons just using one button. That's the beautiful thing about component properties, right? That's just beautiful thing about component. What are in a situation where we want a hover state, an outline button, or maybe a hover state of this button, and maybe like an outline version of this button and a disabled button? How do we do that? That is where components, variants come in. That's where the variant property that we have here comes in. If I want to create that's where the variant comes in, right? So now let's say we want to create different variations of this button that we have here. What do? We just click on this plus icon at the top, right? So let's say when a user hovers on this button, we want to, let's call this hover, right? When a user hovers on this button, want the color to be maybe a little bit brighter, right? A little bit brighter. That's for hover. Then want a situation where we have like an outline version of this button. So let's say we want an outline, so stroke version of this. We remove the color and then take this one right here, and then modify the white to modify the colors to have this. You can see we want an outline version of this one, so we can call this one outline, right? Then want a situation where we have a disabled version of this button. So we can just create a disabled version, maybe like make it 3%, right? We can call this one disabled or inactive. Some people call it inactive. So I select this and click 3. Just when you select an element and hit 3 on your keyboard, you're just reducing the element or its fill to 30%. So 3 is 30%, 1 is 10%, 2 is 20%, 4 is 4%, and 40%, and on it goes, right? So now that we have this, you see, I've been able to create all of this, like this set of buttons here, right? This set of buttons, this one, I've been able to create this normal state, hover state, outline, and inactive. How many buttons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 16 buttons just using 4 buttons. We've been able to like get that property. How do I know? I can just come here and say, okay, I want this button to have like the hover state, and the hover state should not have icon, should not have icon left, it should not have icon right, it should just have text only. I want this one as well to just be maybe like outline. You can see everything is just being modified. I want this one as well to maybe like just be disabled, right? You can see it has turned to disabled button. Just mastering how to use these component properties will help you to simplify your work and process. Okay, let's say this card again, want to create different variants from this card. This is our initial card that we have here. I want a variant that has like background, a different background color, and maybe like a different button color. How do we do that? We create a variant, right? So we swap the colors. Maybe want a dark mode variant of it. We call this one, let's say this one dark mode, right? Want a dark mode variant. So what we'll do, maybe like use the swap the text, button text, and the background color. So the button, let me swap the text here and the background. So the background will be the color of the text, and the text will be the color of the background. How do we do that? So take this and select the color of the text, and then this text, the text here, just modify it to white, right? So we've been able to create that. Let's say we've created this. Okay, we can make this button a little bit lighter, right? We can make it a little bit lighter because it's on a white background, and then on a dark background, and then the text, we can make it black as well, right? We have this. So in a situation we have this variant also retains all the properties, right? All the properties of this card. We've created a dark mode version of it, and we created a light mode version of it. You can swap, right? You can swap, you can see, you can just swap it. You can just swap from this one to this one, and we can choose to have only text and icon. Title and button. You can choose to have only title and description. You can choose to have only title, description, and button, and then turn off the image, right? Turn off the image. You can see you can create a lot of magic using just these 2 cards, instead of having like thousands of cards that will represent all these variants for us. I believe the videos today is quite extensive and long, so you need to take out time to watch it. But thank you for staying with me to the end of this video. If you are still new to Figma and you don't know how to navigate the Figma interface, use the tools and everything, I created a video on how to use Figma crash course. It has like a detailed video that walks you through on how to use Figma and how you can be able to like get started with using Figma. That's if you're new to Figma and all those things. So thank you for staying with me to the end of this video. Thank you, and see you later. Also, please don't forget to subscribe, share my videos, and like. It will help me to grow my channel and help me to grow this channel, and also create more video like this for you guys.